All right, well, we're going to have our first panel, and it's awesome because I get to host it. So we're going to invite some of my friends that we've invited in. Jennifer, David, Dan, I'm going to invite you up to the stage where we are going to talk about branding and specifically how your hospitality brand can take advantage of and be better as a result of strategic partnerships and experience. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome these wonderful people to the stage, and let's get into our first panel. All right, well listen, rather than me introducing everyone, team, let's start off with this. Please introduce yourselves, say where you're from, and let's start with your definition of brand. What does brand mean to you? So Jennifer, I'm going to get you to kick us off. Welcome.
First of all, you have to call me Jen.
Jen, perfect.
Hi everybody, I'm Jen Barnwell. I'm president of Curated Hotel and Resort Collection. We are based in Bethesda, Maryland, right outside Washington, D.C., and that's actually where I happen to live as well. We are a membership group of over 100 independent and boutique hotels. We are champions of indies. We have a whole slew of program offerings for our members related to a couple categories. One is our programs that have pre-negotiated favorable terms and conditions with who we think are the best in class and the most applicable vendors, service providers, product services, et cetera, in the independent boutique space, and then also a whole suite of marketing services related to amplifying our member properties, revenue initiatives to help drive traffic to their website, and ultimately additional bookings and incremental revenue. In terms of branding, for me, it's more kind of like adjectives that I think of. It's, something that is recognizable, that can be, pretty easily replicated, something that maybe, people are familiar with and comfortable with. There's a certain expectation or things that are expected because, they know of it and have seen it before and, expect it to be kind of, the same thing from location to location.
Great. Thanks, Jen. Dan.
Good afternoon. I'm Dan Flannery. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Loews Hotels for about 8 months, relatively new in the role. And it's great to be here. I didn't realize that you had opened this resort. I was supposed to open this resort. When Steve Witkoff owned this before lost it in COVID, this was going to be I think a 2,300 room JW Marriott and a 900 room Edition hotel when I was running the Edition brand for Marriott. So it's good it's the first time I've seen it finished. It's really a beautiful hotel. I think to answer the brand question, I'll use an Ian Schrager story. I don't know where Jonathan is. You can tell Ian I can't go 2 minutes without telling an Ian Schrager story. But when we started the Edition brand, I was hired to launch that with him back in 2008, and he sat down in a very kind of direct way and said, "You guys at Marriott don't create brands; you buy them." And he was trying to make a point. He was right. He said, "You bought Renaissance, you bought Ritz-Carlton, you bought Residence Inn." He said, "I create brands," and he said, "When you create a brand, you have to have a really strong point of view on what that brand stands for. Great brands have to stand for something." And it was a fascinating process. He took out a legal pad. I still saved the notes from this, but he said, before we start talking about design or food and beverage strategies or uniforms or music programming or anything, we're going to have a deep conversation about what this brand is going to stand for and how it pulls through to everything: uniforms, vocabulary, appearance standards, operating standards, anything. And it was a fascinating process. And so I think, to me, I think a brand is a manifestation of what you want to stand for.
Great, thank you. David, welcome.
Thank you, good to be here. David Cooperberg, Head of Development of Dream Hotels. Dream started in 1999. We opened up our first lifestyle hotel in New York on 49th and Broadway. And from then, we just focused on lifestyle hotels. The first W opened up 2 months earlier than us. And it was really us, Ian Schrager, and W were kind of the first movers and shakers in lifestyle. And since then, we've just focused on lifestyle hotels. I came on board about 12 years ago to take a New York-based company and really make it a global hotel lifestyle company. We opened up Dream Nashville, Hollywood, Project in Doha, Miami, and about a year and a half ago, Hyatt came knocking, and we got acquired by Hyatt, I guess it's 2 years in February. So just like Marriott, I guess Hyatt also buys a lot of brands. In terms of what a brand is, really I think it conveys a strong message of, what the customer's there to expect. And for Dream, our brand positioning was, we are always going to be the most fun hotel in any city. What Dream in New York and what Dream in Nashville look like are going to be different, but the customer is going to know that they're going to have the best time in our hotel, food, nightlife, day life, and so on.
And I love that idea, and I think that's important for everybody to consider. A brand is a promise made and a promise kept. And I think that the important thing that when you've got this brand, that you have to do whatever it takes to control that experience, because if you don't, the guest will. And then they create your brand and they'll write about it online forever and ever. So talk to us about strategic partnerships now. How do they help build your brand? And maybe you can tell a story of the benefits of the strategic partnership and elevating that brand, whether it's in the guest eyes or that promise that you're making out. So we'll start down the other end, David, maybe with you.
Sure. Dream, we were a small lifestyle hotel company. We only had a dozen plus hotels, but we definitely hit above our weight class. And the way we did it was through partnerships. We were firm believers that you only opened up a hotel once, and you only have one shot to get it right once. And so we put a lot of emphasis on the opening and the opening party. And for Dream Nashville, we wanted to have a kick-ass party, and we just didn't have the budget to do it. So we looked for partners, and we brought in Lincoln. And Lincoln was trying to kind of position itself with the customer base that we talk to and stay at our hotels. And so as part of the deal, Lincoln became our town car for all of our hotels and also gave us $500,000 to throw one hell of a party for Nashville. And we got the chain smokers, and we flew them down, and big win for us and a big win for Lincoln.
You can tell David's happy he's in Las Vegas. As I said, this is going to be a great party. So thank you. So again, if you had to go and give advice, the benefit of that partnership, it's not just about the money. What have you continued to get out of that partnership with them?
Yeah, they continue to be our town car, right? And I think for us, we got a great name behind us, Lincoln. When we first looked at it, we said, Lincoln, does it really fit? But then we thought more about it, and we talked to them about where they're trying to take the Lincoln brand, and it made a lot of sense. And for them, look, this is the customer base they were looking for, and they were very excited to partner with the Dream brand.
So great. Dan, what about for you? What, again, the benefits of these strategic partnerships?
Yeah, I think it's, I don't think it's beneficial if you bring the same things to the partnership, right? I think there's some benefit in having, complementary skills or attributes, whether it's to identify, to build the identity of your brand like Ian did for Marriott, or give it scale. In the case of, the Ian Marriott relationship back in 2007 got a lot of coverage that, it's the odd couple, it's never going to last, it's, Mr. Studio 54 and Bill Marriott who doesn't drink. It was really a very successful partnership, I think largely because it's such differing skill sets. You look at how Marriott was built through having, pipes, big reservation system, rewards program, national sales organization, purchasing power, and didn't particularly do design, marketing, and PR the way Ian did. He needed to do that because he didn't have the pipes for his hotels. So having those, those two complementary skill sets together was really beneficial. I think, to take it to Loews and look at a partnership that, gives you scale potential. Jonathan Tisch years ago negotiated a joint venture with Universal for the Orlando market. So we do almost half our system revenue out of the 8 hotels in Orlando that we own 50-50 with Universal. We're going to open 3 more in January, 2 750-room hotels and a 500-room hotel. But the scale that you can get of working, not only working with the Universal, they're going to open this theme park, Epic Universe, $7 billion theme park. that we think will bring 25 to 27,000 visitors a day into that market, and we're adding 2,000 rooms. So, real demand generator there. But then you go beyond that, and the scale of what Universal's owned by Comcast. So Comcast has MSNBC, NBC, CNBC, the Golf Channel, USA, Peacock, all these different franchises, Wicked, and they are very smart about turning all of their franchise strength onto, or their platform strength onto one franchise a month for the year. They call it the Symphony strategy. And so, the entire month of March, all those channels will be focused on Epic Universe and how do you drive that, and we'll be a beneficiary of that.
No, that's fantastic. Can you talk for a moment, you said that whole idea, people get scared when they think they have to partner up with somebody that doesn't get their business or has got a completely different way of thinking. Can you talk about overcoming that challenge or fear? Because I think that's real. We often we'd love to partner with somebody, but we're not sure if it's right because they don't get us. Is there any lessons you've learned over the years about getting over that fear or pushing through that wall?
Yeah, I give Arnie Sorensen, who's passed away a couple years ago, a lot of credit for. He used to say quite a bit that Marriott didn't have permission to be in the lifestyle space. That if they were going to get into that space, he wanted it to be luxury, which is why they asked me to lead it. But they really wanted somebody with Ian's credentials to control the direction of that. And for a company like Marriott that is a reputation of being pretty controlling, to back up and say, hey, we're going to let someone else do it, is a sign of respect that he brings something that you don't bring, that you can't do it yourself. That's hard for people to admit, I think.
Yeah, and I think one of the things as hoteliers, hospitality people, we often get caught up in this grandiosity that we know it all. And I think one of the pieces that we have to, as we start to forge through the future, is we have to be a lot more curious about what other industries and other brands are doing. So I love that story. Jen, what about for you? What's the benefits, and maybe a story about how you've found these partnerships to really grow and give strength to your brand?
Yeah, so admittedly, I definitely have a different perspective, so I don't have a lot of big names to throw out there because we're in the independent boutique space, and kind of where we live and is most appropriate for us is more on the regional, local level for sure. So the way we approach and look for partnerships are in the local community, in the local region, like I said, and it's more about the storytelling aspect of it. So putting yourself out there to create new content that you can use, on your socials, add content to your websites, videos, images, etc., to just amplify who you are and make sure you're out there publicly. To create activations, programming in the hotel to get the local community to come in, to perhaps, as they say, surprise and delight your guests that come, that even, find your small independent hotel that may be a brand of one, and when they get there, there's so much going on and there's interesting things happening that they didn't expect that keep them engaged and either want to come back or go to maybe one of your other properties in your small group. I also think it helps signal kind of your values as well, depending on what partnership you choose. I guess a couple quick examples if I have time. This goes back years ago, but we were opening a small independent hotel in San Francisco, and it was well before COVID. We were, trying to be creative and unique at the time, and had some freedom and flexibility. And it started out, with a sales and marketing group, and we said, okay, well, let's go out. Well, they had these ideas, not me. They said, let's go out to all the local businesses, obviously very tech heavy, and they showed up in this, cupcake food truck or something like that. And they went and had the team members from the companies come out, and they said, our initiative is that we want to get some electronics and devices from you that you're done with and you want to recycle. Because on the other side of this, we were partnering with the Art Academy in San Francisco and talking to their students, and we ultimately had one of the art students come to borrow what you said about the grand opening party so important. We didn't have a big budget, but we wanted to do some interesting things there. So we found an art student that was interested, and she did a whole piece live at the grand opening party from these recycled materials. Obviously, it was displayed in the hotel and it is still there today, but it ended up in this continued partnership with the Art Academy, and the students loved the hotel because it was something new and different at that time, back in 2013. They would hang out at the hotel, they would come to our lobby, they would, go to the coffee shop, eat in our restaurant. This was a small collection of hotels we called the Unofficial Z Collection. We opened up a couple more in San Francisco that were nearby, and it forged this true kind of authentic relationship where all the students were hanging out in our hotels, and we utilized their art services, if you want to say that, into the future. And then a second example, I'll try to be really quick about it, is I don't know if many of you have heard of this company called Procure Impact, but we've been partnered with them at Curator for a little while. They're basically a marketplace that helps connect businesses like hotels and resorts that need to buy things with social impact or social responsibility or socially responsible companies that employ people that were formerly incarcerated, that had substance abuse issues, were trafficked, refugees, people with disabilities. Extremely noble cause. It's really amazing. We kind of signed on with them right away. So the obvious part of it is, okay, if your hotel, brand or operation or ownership, whatever, kind of subscribes to those kind of values, of course you want to partner with them. It makes sense because they have things for your mini bars, for your gift shops, for your displays at your, grab and go at your front desk, or even art and FF&E. So you're kind of sending a message that these kind of things are important to you to support these communities. But perhaps the unexpected part of it is all these connections that are forged, deeper with your team members. So I'm sure all of you know your team members very well. Some of them share a lot, some of them don't. But if you are the kind of employer that supports these kind of initiatives and partners with these kind of companies and makes the products available in your operation, potentially the odds are someone on your team has someone in their family or friend circle that may be part of this community that you're now supporting, and it makes them feel, a sense of pride and, even deeper loyalty to the operation. So that's been really wonderful to see.
Fantastic. So we've got this idea that there's a lot of great benefits from these partnerships for our brand. Let's give some advice out there. Where do you start? How do you approach maybe another brand with your idea? And is there anything that we should be aware of to be careful about in this process? So Jen, you kind of felt you set yourself up with a couple of great examples. So again, talk to us about the process of approaching, and then give us the caveat. It goes like, okay, be careful with this. Maybe there's another story about something that didn't quite go so well.
Yeah. I think it could potentially start with, maybe an offering you're missing, or, you don't have the expertise yourselves, or you don't want to go out and go through the whole process of creating it. So we tend to start with maybe that approach, and also close with that, how can you make sure it's a win-win for both parties? Because that's really important. We tend to think about, dig into the details, what marketing capabilities does this partner have? How big is their database? Is there really alignment and overlap with their consumers and your consumers? Because ultimately you do want to publicize this to the greatest extent you can and get more traffic to your website and get more people in your hotel that want to stay with you, but you want it to benefit them as well. And we've had the most success with figuring out everything on the front end. And if it's not a good match, it's not a good match, let it go. But make sure you've got your mutual goals, or even your KPIs discussed and on kind of paper ahead of time, and it's things that are trackable. So then when you circle around, months from now or years from now, you can really track what worked and what didn't, and if you should continue with them. So that's kind of what's worked for us.
Great, I like that. Dan, talk about that process of sitting down and starting to think about the type of brands you want to partner with. Again, Jenna, you indicated you spent a lot of time on that. Dan, can you speak to that process and the advantages of really investing time up front before you even make that probably first introduction?
Yeah, it's interesting. I agree with, is my mic on? Yeah. I agree with what Jen said about really looking for the overlap. I was thinking about this, my first general manager's job 25 years ago, I was running a small suburban hotel in New Jersey, and our weekend business, there was no big demand generators there. It was big, pharma business during the week, and the only thing that drove weekends, about 50% of our weekend business was wedding blocks out of 4 catering facilities that didn't have hotel rooms. And the dynamics of the way they would, play us, they basically knew they were holding all the cards, right? So they'd come to us and say, okay, we'll put you on the list of referrals for the brides as long as you give them a complimentary suite, give us this rate that we want, pay for the shuttle service back and forth. And we had to, and so I went to a seminar. I wish I remembered the name of the guy that wrote this book, but he drew these 2 big circles, and he said, a successful partnership, if you want to put it in practice, he said you should think about your skills, attributes, assets, things that you're good at, and then think about somebody that you potentially want to partner with and what their needs are, and look for where that overlap is. And they gave us this kind of working session to go through this, and I picked this, catering issue to work through. And basically, with his help, we basically landed on the fact that, wait a minute, they're in the same business we are to some degree, right? They buy food, they buy beverage, they buy chafing dishes and banquet chairs and energy and linen and all the orange juice, all the same things that Marriott buys. But Marriott buys it for cheaper because they had just started the Avendra network then, and outsiders couldn't get into it at the time. So I went back to Marriott and said, hey, can I sponsor somebody that's not a hotel competitor and to participate in Avendra? And they said, yeah, why would you want to do that? I said, I want to pitch this to these guys. So they agreed to do it. We went out to them and said, hey, how'd you like to get into Marriott's purchasing? And when the first guy looked at it, he said, well, just based on the energy prices alone, he goes, I'd do this. He said, what do you want? I said, I want to be the only lead you send us. I want to get the phone call as soon as the brides book the business. I want you to stay out of it because it's not your money and it's not her money. I want to decide whether I want to do the upgrade on the suites or not and do the shuttle transportation. But I want to be the first one in the door on that. And it really it was a win-win, to your point, right? It was an interesting overlap, and I've tried to remember that over the years, that you can really there's a process you can follow to try to figure out how do you grind something down there.
So as you start to do that initial, so now you're at the point of like, okay, I believe that there is an opportunity here. Any advice about how we approach those potential partners? I mean, is there anything that you've learned over the years as you've gone through that?
Yeah, I think you have to, what's in it for them, right? There's got to be something I'm not just looking for something, there's got to be some benefit to the partner.
Good, fantastic. David, what about from your perspective?
Yeah, for us, all of our properties are so curated, so it would really be done on a property-by-property basis. I take it, for example, we're building a hotel that's opening up next year in Valle de Guadalupe. So it's a dream in Valle, and some people ask, how do you take a dream in New York that's the red velvet and the bottle service and bring it to a place, the wine country of Mexico? And the way that we really can pull it off is through partners. We realize that kind of taking the nightlife we do in New York, bringing it there wouldn't work. So how do we find local partners? So be it the food and beverage, be it the spa, even the shampoo, the soap, we really want to make sure it feels authentic. To the point where we're building a tequila bar, we're building a wine, using the vineyard there, bringing in the right winemakers, the right tequila partners. So it's all through partnerships.
And again, go through that approach. Anything that you've learned over the years that we can sort of offer the audience here about advice in approaching other brands that you want to get into business with?
Yeah, Dan mentioned, look, it's got to be a win-win for both parties. I think coming from Dream and now with Hyatt, we have a lot of value, especially if we go to the local level and asking to partner with somebody our size. That's great. I think the other thing that we're always concerned, for us, our brand is the most important thing. So we have to make sure that we partner with people who feel the same way we do about their brand, because now we're creating some sort of marriage here. So always a concern, who are we partnering with, and where are they going with their brand?
Okay, so we have a lot of non-hotel people out here in our audience. So let's flip this up on you guys. Okay, they want to approach you. They want to come to you with the next great idea or next great brand partnership. So David, give them some advice. How do all of the vendors that are represented out there, what advice would you give to them about approaching you with a strategic partnership?
Yeah, for us, people come to me and say, look, we'd love to do mattresses and do it at the Hyatt level. And, that's great, but that's kind of a whole nother level of bureaucracy and corporate red tape. For us, as I said, it's really done at the property level. So if we can kind of say, hey, you got a property in Guadalupe, you guys are building a tequila bar, I got a great idea for your tequila bar, this is why we should be partners. That opens a whole nother discussion for us.
So again, focusing at the local level. Dan, any advice for a vendor wanting to come and do business with you?
Yeah, I just like probably both of you, we get, and probably you as well, Shane, we get bombarded between LinkedIn and social media and email requests of people pitching, they want to be involved and do something with you. I think, it's almost just like references when you're hiring somebody, finding somebody who can vouch for you that would get our attention to say, hey, you should take a look at this. This has worked well for us.
That's a great piece of advice. Jen, anything?
Yeah, I think one of the kind of most important parts is, at least for us, is just to take the time to actually look, at our collection, because we are, part of what our value system is that we don't dictate or mandate anything, and we think that's incredibly important in the independent and boutique space. That's why I love it so much, because you get to make every single decision. You have complete flexibility. That's also a lot to take on, and it's a harder path to go down. But I think take the time to understand maybe even the eclectic nature of the properties that are in our collection, and that at least for the situation we're in, there's multiple levels that you're going to have to go through. We aren't the type of company that's going to partner with someone and say, okay, overnight, all 100 hotels are going to adopt this, that, or the other thing. We're the kind of the first stop. We really want to be first movers on things and understand what's best in class for our type of hotel. But then there's a whole process beyond that for us to reach out to the various operators and owner operators and brands of one to communicate it out. So just to take the deep dive on what we are and understand us, that always makes a big difference.
And I love that idea, and I think that's a really important piece. And again, if you're thinking of a vendor and you want to approach, go and experience the property. Go and get to know it. Again, I've seen over the years vendors come up and they really didn't know who we were, and they didn't know what we were trying to achieve or what our brand promise was about. So do your homework, and that's where I think at the local level you can have some really good conversations with the people on the ground, but ask them, what have they promised their guests, their customers, and what are they doing right now to kind of deliver on it and start to approach it from that way. So some really cool advice.
And change your position on LinkedIn from business development manager, because we don't want to have our business developed.
Okay, did you hear that, business developers? If you've got that, change your LinkedIn profile. I love it. So these strategic partnerships are there. Can you talk about maybe an example and get to the guests now? Because again, at the end of the day, our brands are defined by what our guests experience. So if you've got an example of a story where a brand partnership or a strategic partnership really made a difference on the guest experience from the fact that it just elevated you, what they thought of you in their eyes. Any examples of that, Jen?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is, it's just the philosophy of the previous owner I worked with. We, just say this the right way, we didn't necessarily have the strong opinion that every operator was really great at food and beverage. So we started to have this point of view, especially, and it was an ownership group that had brand managed, brand franchise, but also independents. if we have some flexibility across all of those, maybe we should pick a third-party food and beverage operator. Not that that's like a unique idea that no one else has ever done, but we found great success with that in San Francisco. When we were opening this hotel back in 2013, there was a big restaurant space. It had a like totally crappy restaurant in there that we had to figure out what to do with it. And the best thing we did was hire a broker and say, just go out to the market. We don't want some national restaurant chain. We want to know who the best restaurant operators and owners are in town and see if someone would be interested in opening a new location here. And it was the best thing we ever did. It was so exciting. It was a smaller restaurant group that had only maybe 2 or 3 restaurants at that time, super successful, huge following. They were small. So to do another one, you know, completely new concept, this like amazing designer, Ken Folk, which I'm sure you've all heard of. It was a total hit. Not that there weren't challenges. There's always some friction there between the hotel operation, you know, and a typical restaurant operator, because we did need them to participate in catering all the event space inside the hotel. And we were also perfectly fine with, some people may think there was a complete disconnect between the restaurant and the hotel, but we were completely fine with that because they had their own separate identities, so they could get tons of the local community in. And then all of our customers who would show up that wanted a full service hotel experience, you know, upper upscale, they had this amazing restaurant and bar and private event experience that they could tap into. So that's the first thing that came to my mind.
I love that. Can you give us a couple of things? What happens when that partnership does go wrong? When you have that friction that you just talked about, any advice?
Hopefully you have an amazing GM, which I was very lucky over the years. The last thing, I mean, I will say even to this day, this restaurant operator still texts me once in a while when he's having an issue with the current asset manager. But I think you try to get off on the right foot and make sure you have brought in the right partner. But I have found having the right GM, general manager, in that position that wants to take ownership and own that relationship and deal with all the challenges and not have, you know, the lessee calling the owner and, you know, tattletaling and, oh my God, everything is so bad or whatever. So I have found that over the years, I had a couple amazing GMs who wanted to handle that, run interference, and solve it on their own before it had to come back to me.
Great, love that. Dan, again, how does this partnership take that guest experience and make a real difference, and an example that you've got?
I was thinking when you were talking about not kind of mandating anything, interesting lesson from Edition. We mandated everything, right? So it's not that we wanted everything to be consistent or the same in every hotel, but one of the things that we decided is that one of the principles Ian believes is let experts do, stay in your lane. Let experts do what they do best. And so we dealt with a lot of third-party restaurant partners because he believed, one, they would do a better job with the culinary program than we could do on our own. Two is it would protect against the undulations that change over time as the GM changes and the chef changes and the food and beverage director, that there's somebody kind of over that keeping some consistency in what that concept is. But even within that, we'd go to, John George or Jason Atherton or John Fraser, Diego Munoz, really accomplished chefs, and we'd say, hey, how'd you like to do a restaurant with us? By the way, you're not going to do the design because Ian Schrager's going to do the design. You're not going to do the lighting because Isometrics does the lighting. They're theatrical lighting firm. You're not going to do the AV because Claire Global does it, that does rock concerts. Madison Cox is going to do the landscaping. Freddie Lieb is going to do the uniforms. Gravy is going to do the music. Purple's going to do the PR. It was this collection of people who did it under Ian's direction. And being able to tell that story, I mean, nobody said no to us then. They wouldn't even be able to name the restaurant. They could make suggestions, but that was going to be his decision. So I think that was a unique approach. The other thing was kind of a eye-opening for me is coming out of Marriott. He said, you guys try to do everything by committee and consensus, and you're trying to please everybody and ask everybody's opinion. And he said, you don't do any creative endeavor by committee. You don't write a song by committee, paint art, write a book, make a movie. One of his famous quotes, he said, if you try to do something by committee, you start out trying to design a racehorse and you wind up with a camel. And so, the importance of letting experts do what they do, but the common denominator was that was going through, at that time with him through his hands.
I love that advice. Let the experts do what experts do. David, what about from your perspective? That consequence and outcome that benefited guests and has continued to do so today?
Yeah, the motto of Dream was always to build first for the community, and then the guests will show up. We found that if somebody comes downstairs from their room and there's a bunch of beautiful people sitting by the bar drinking from the local community, no one's going to complain. In fact, they may even pay a premium on what they would pay normally. And so at Dream Hollywood, we had a lot of empty space, and we said, how do we get the community here? So we did a partnership with Crypt Gallery, which was one of the largest online NFT galleries. And we set up a whole art gallery in our lobby, which is still there after a couple of years. And for us, it was great because you had a rotating art gallery, changed every couple seconds actually. For our guests, you could actually scan it and buy it on your phone. And then we got the locals there too, coming every Wednesday. We do an auction, and so we get people there, and we kept the lobby buzzing. It was a great partnership.
So you mentioned the word community. Let's jump over to community engagement. Can we talk about the importance of community engagement today for your brands, and what a engagement with someone in the local community or a group has done and benefited your brands sort of long term? David, you want to you set yourself up for that one perfectly.
Okay. Look, we're all about getting the community in our front door, and we want them to hang out in our hotel, hang out in our bar, hang out up on our rooftop. And the way to do that is to make the property feel organic and local. And the best way to do that is bring in partners from the community. It could be the DJ, the artist, the chef. We're always kind of rather find somebody local than go somebody on a national or global level.
What about for charities or local sort of entities that are really making a difference in the community? How have you aligned maybe your hotels with some of those efforts and maybe some of the benefits of that?
Yeah, we often go into pioneering areas, be it Hollywood, be it, kind of where Chelsea was, or Dream Downtown. We're part of the story of cleaning up that area. And so we're out there kind of bringing in the local community from a charity point of view, the police officers. We have a very loud hotel. We got to make friends with the cops. And so we do a good job of reaching out to the police officers and the local community to make sure that they look at us as a benefit to the community.
Very good. So Dan, what about for your hotels out there? Obviously they're a global presence. How do they look at community engagement and finding those opportunities locally to really make a difference, and how has that helped the larger brand as a result?
Yeah, a recent example, in Orlando, the day after Thanksgiving, we had 7 of our 8 hotels there. One of them doesn't have a big enough lobby to do this, but one of the biggest events that they do every year in those hotels that the employees love. And you talk about, there's employer branding as well, right? So are you making your team feel like they're part of something meaningful that is making a difference in their community? But every summer we'll partner with an organization there that is focused on hunger and food insecurity, and host a golf tournament that raises money. And we take the proceeds from that tournament, and buy dry soup ingredients. And the day after Thanksgiving, we partner any of their family and guests that are in the hotels that can sign up for an hour to box soup kits. And they did, out of the 7 hotels, they did 450,000 soup kits last Friday.
Wow, congratulations. And so how does that then impact the brand? How have you seen the benefits of that sort of recuperate, maybe at a larger level or even locally?
Yeah, many ways. Obviously, there's a benefit of PR. There's good social media on it, but the local community loves it, right? The city of Orlando loves it because it's it's giving something back. But I think the best benefit is the employees are really so proud of it and have an opportunity to bring their families in and participate.
And I love how you talk that. And remember, purpose still matters. And again, when our employees feel that there's a purpose beyond just their day-to-day routine, I think you really start to capture the hearts and minds of those people as well. So that's a really great example. Jen, what about for you? You've got your collection in the local community. Are they doing a lot of work out there, and how's it impacting?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. In the independent and boutique space, being ingrained in the community is just part of our DNA. I mean, and it always has been and will continue to be. I mean, there is an expectation and a true desire to bring the community in. You want the community in your property. I mean, partially, it's important to the business model too. I mean, you can't just survive on guests coming in for overnight stays. So a lot of what we do around activations and programming, especially around the holidays, bringing in local musicians, comedy shows, service days, donating to charities, but also there's an expectation and also typically a desire from the leadership team that they're going to be involved in the Chamber of Commerce, they're going to be involved with the local city council. They want to be part of the community, an active part of the community, and you don't want to only do that when you need something, to your point. You want to be part of the community all the way through, accepted, actually be additive to the community. And then another quick example is at some of our resorts that have a vast array of amenities, we've created these memberships for the community so they can come in and have the kind of massive pool experience and the massive fitness center experience. And we built these new pickleball courts so the local Santa Cruz community, if they so choose, they could buy these memberships and be part of the resort. And it is a little bit self-serving too, because then hopefully they'll make their way over to the restaurant and the bar. And we've also done that in Florida too, with memberships for this amazing beach club and this amazing private restaurant and preferred tea times, to bring the community in to feel like they're part of this business operation, that it's not just independent, just kind of bringing people in from out of town nonstop.
I love that message. It's like this has to be part of your DNA. You can't just do it because you want to get a quick PR push. You actually have to build it into this is how you operate. And I love that idea that you come in and you make that part of your mission statement as a property, a business, and a brand, and you slowly embed it into everything that you do. All right, we've got a couple of minutes left. Let's speak things into existence. Quick round. If you could partner with one brand next year, what is that brand and why? Jen, go.
Oh, okay. Really quickly, I was thinking of two things. I just love the idea, and we did it a couple times in San Francisco years ago, and I don't know how to do it on a bigger scale with all these varied independents, but I love the idea of these like up and coming designers being involved in your uniform program, whether it's front of house or back of house, so that they're comfortable, they're cool. But I can't do it on such a big scale with these huge luxury brands because we don't have the resources for that. The other thing I was thinking of, I wish kind of in the independent boutique space, we could get in with some kind of airline, or maybe it's a regional, or even my wish and hope and aspiration would be something like JSX.
All right, so airlines, fashion brands. See, Jen. Dan, you've got a lot going on. What would be that aspirational brand for you?
I don't know what I would do with her, but I'll take anything with Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And I'll never miss budget ever again.
Very good. You will be the success. All right.
And I picked the Z, so let's wrap this up.
All right, cool. So we got plenty of Swifties going on. David, what about for you? Your aspirational brand for next year?
I'm going to cheat. I'm going to give you three.
Okay.
Waymo. If anyone's taken the automated car, I mean, what a cool house car that would be to take you around, right? 2, Harry Styles. Hits a lot of groups, a little funky, but definitely mainstream.
Okay.
And I got to give Restoration Hardware a shout out. I mean, what they're pulling off with their food and beverage. In fact, I go to town and I visit friends, and they want to go to the Restoration Hardware for drinks. Is crazy, but they're doing a great job.
All right, very cool. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Please, big round of applause. Jen, Dan, David, thanks for joining us on the stage. Enjoy the rest of it. Cheers.